let's begin the Harrier GR.3 build. So we're going to be really sort of concentrating on this little bit of fit issue we're going to have here, right? Later on I'm going to show you how to sort of glue this and filler it and sand it and get it all looking nice and good. Now we do use these 3D decals, which ended up being quite a bit of a pain, but we'll tackle them anyway. A couple of other little bits and bobs and photo etch to go with this build, which should make it quite nice. We did have the whole cockpit instrument display panel stuff in photo etch, which I wish I used, but this set does come with a load of goodies to go around the build as well. So just cleaning up the areas for all our photo etch and our 3D decals that we're going to put down. Nice bit of sanding, cutting away the detail, making it all nice and smooth, ready to go. Now we're going to do a nice little trick, little bit of toilet roll, getting that nice thin sheet and cutting it to size. A bit of nice PVA glue, watered down a little bit with a little bit of water, and we can basically place this tissue on top. You start by getting it down nice and sort of wet. Once that's down, you can then start to sort of shape it to kind of put creases in it and really kind of give a nice texture to your ejector seats, as well as those creases as well. Adds that extra bit of flavour. We now move along with a bit of photo etch, just cutting them off the fret. Good to get them off real nice, so you got no edges to it to hinder the gluing or building or anything like that. Lots of different folding techniques we can use to get our photo etch all nicely bent into shape. This was quite a bit of a complex one and needed lots of different bits of bending, but it does look good in the end. Now, as you can see, there is a lot of lovely photo etch that you do get from Edard to go with this kit. Really kind of spruces up all those areas that could do with that extra detail. A good bit of extra thin CA glue here. This is just to kind of finalize and make sure it's all nicely glued into place, just to stop it from coming apart. More photo etch just to glue on just inside the cockpit, ready for our 3D decals to actually then go on top of the actual photo etch, which was rather interesting. But this kit does have such a lot of nice photo etch that you can get from Edard. As you can see, looks absolutely beautiful and well worth the extra money and time. There was a bit of a problem getting this part to fit in here, but if you maneuver it just right, you can get it in just nice. Moving along with some actual scratch building here, just to jazz up the back of the ejector seat. Pretty simple, kind of just stirring plastic and a bit of wire turning into a coil. That kind of usual basic kind of scratch building, just as I say, to jazz up the cockpit a little bit more. We're now going to be actually putting down the 3D printed decals that you can get for this kit. Simple bit of PVA glue and laying the actual decals down. No real need to use any kind of decaling solutions, but as you can see, it does look rather nice and does have quite a more three-dimensional look and feel to it compared to the normal photo etch that you can get. Just some basic painting here as well. I do believe this is NATO black, using some washes from Games Workshop just to give the base paint job a little bit more depth. But we'll move on to a bit of dry brushing now. Well, actually we'll do that in a bit, but we move along with a bit of chipping as well to go with the cockpit. Again, some pretty nice, easy, basic stuff just to enhance the weathering of the cockpit. Now we're going to do some of that dry brushing on our ejector seat. This will create nice easy highlights as well as the lovely photo etch, again by Edard, to give us some really cool ejector seat belts. If you glue this in just right, you can get them to sit just nicely and look natural rather than kind of all straight and looking all box-like. It just gives it that natural look. If you kind of crease them up and glue them up in the right way, gives you that natural looking look to our seatbelts. Very fiddly work using photo etch, but it really does enhance ejector seats and cockpits if you do use that kind of stuff. Now we're going to get down to some oils, which I do believe Ammo does some really cool, they're like oil brushes. It's basically oil paints put in an eyeliner kind of pot, but yeah, you can just place that down, bit of thinners just to blend and feather that in. And again, this is just going to kind of go into all the nooks and crannies and the creases just to bring out all that lovely detail. And then you can sort of clean it up, you can rehydrate it again, clean it up some more, you know, and you can keep going until you're happy, or even just completely kind of go back to clean and start over again if you want to. Some cool stuff here, some Goozy agent just to get those dials nice and glossy. Now this is a cool pigment by Ushi Vandendros, sorry I can't pronounce it, but basically it's just a pigment that you brush on and then you kind of wipe up and it shines and gives you a nice natural metal finish. Really, really cool product. Just cutting out some foam here, and this is just to seal up our air intakes ready for spraying. Moving along with some filler here and actually just kind of sanding out our actual ejector pin marks, which just some basic building with that. And as you can see, I'm just filling in that air intake with that cut up bit of foam. This kit did fit pretty good, but there was a couple of areas where you did need to sand and trim a little bit here and there, test fit, just to get it to go together. I mean, it did, as I say, okay, go together, but it did need that little bit of help here and there. Now you just need a pencil for this bit of photo etch, right? And it's all about just kind of like shaping the photo etch in a way that gives it more of a sort of three-dimensional look rather than being flat. As you can see, that really did look nice. It was a nice little bit of a technique there. Now this is kind of like the problem area with this kit is, yeah, on all of them actually, even Hazagari, all of them, they have this glue line always in this position, and you can always see the glue line. So I wanted to really sort of sand it back, get it all nice and smooth, so as you could come in with what we're doing here is some just Tamiya extra thin cement. You melt some plastic sprues in there and you've got basically a glue filler thing that is going to fill those gaps in a way that when we scribe onto it to put a join line on, a recessed panel line on there, it's not going to flake away or crack if you use, say, super glue, or if you used any other kind of filler. Because we actually used styrene plastic as the filler, we could scribe it so much more nicely, as you can see just here. I mean, it's good to also use black paint so as you can see how good your work is, and as you can see here, I'll put more black paint on and you can see where you are. Good old Vallejo plastic putty technique, can't beat it. You just put it on, wipe it off, boom, you've got yourself your gaps all nice and filled. Tamiya clear green there just to do our instrument display panels. We do get some Gauzy agent just out here to dip our instruments heads-up display, sorry, to make that all nice and glossy. Very fiddly it is to glue on there, but it really does sort of enhance it. Very nice and small bit of plastic card there. Edard also does the canopy masks as well, which just makes it all a hell of a lot easier when it comes to putting on your own canopy masks. Bit of mascal just to finish it off again, to just make the whole process easy. Just making a bit of a pilot hole now, so as I can drill a hole, and then we can actually fit the pitot tube in there, which is just one of these things. I do love to go off and buy the aftermarket pitot tubes. I just think it gives such a nice enhancement to a lot of kits. I was experimenting here as well, just doing my own bit of chipping. I actually primed the model, and now I'm just scraping away that primer with sandpaper or sewing needles, and as you can see, that should give us a nice bit of texture in regards to chipping. We're now moving along with some spraying, getting into that pre-shading. It's always good just to test and make sure you're flowing nice on your airbrush, but yeah, nice bit of pre-shading here. Just using the Mr. Hobby Aquarius colours for this build, mainly H12 there on the black. Bit of squiggly lines, you know. This is just to give a bit of a mottled effect to all the flatter areas, again just to give the aircraft a bit more interest when we put our main colour on top. Using H331 and H330 as our main two colours on this kit. Always good to start off with a really light, nice misty coat just to help all your other coats stick before then you go off and start doing some normal light coats. Sometimes you might end up having blemishes on your paintwork. Really get those kind of buffable sanding sticks that you use for canopies and just get it all nice and smooth, and then you can just spray back over it. But you are in the spray stage, so good idea to clean up after yourself all that dust. And then you should have that pre-shading just coming through just nicely to give you that nice bit of interest compared to having flat paint going down. Now we're coming along with some H11. We're just going to mix that with our grey colour that we've been using for our main colour here. And we're just doing some bleaching. Bleaching is where we thin down the paint so it's nice and thin, transparent. And you kind of put it on top and you give your piece more interest with both dark and light versions of the grey, as you can see. Moving into the camo stage, we're going to get some blue tack, or should I say, we're going to use some white tack. It just seems to not leave a residue as much as blue tack does, just to make our camo pattern and fill in the gaps with Tamiya tape. With our green now, we are just again nice misty coat before we put on a normal light coat and get some good coverage all around the model. Just make sure you get into all the little nooks and crannies, and then you've got the lovely task of removing the mask, just really revealing all that camo pattern. Nice bit of a touch up around whatever edges, any sort of overspray or anything. A bit of H4 now. This is what we're going to mix into our green. Better to use a yellow rather than a white. It kind of gives you a bit more of a nicer, warmer colour rather than white kind of just looks a bit zombified. And again, we're just going to do that bleaching. We're kind of doing pre-shading here with natural metal finish colours, and then we're going to put on top some dark iron by Mr. Hobby, and then you just buff it down with some a cloth or a cotton wool bud just to kind of buff it up and shine it up, and you really do end up with a really cool natural metal finish just there. As you can see, looks really nice. Into the Decaling stage, love it or hate it, I do love it. This kit had a very difficult area here with our roundel around our air intake area. Really had to be very careful how you placed it. But yes, you know, the usual putting down the micro set, wiping that on. Then you roll a cotton wool bud as you normally do just to get that moisture out and those air pockets out, whacking on some micro set on top. Now we're going to make a nice little mixture where we kind of thin down with some thinners and some rubber black by Tamiya. We're going to just paint some thinners actually onto the wheel first before we put our mixture on. And as you can see, the capillary action is absolutely excellent when you do it like that. It just goes all the way around the rim and paints it for you. Bit more good old chipping going on here, both with a sponge or a paintbrush. The paintbrush kind of gives you nice sort of big ones and scratches and whatnot. Coming back to our air brakes just here, right, we're kind of putting a lot of chipping on there. We're now going to make a mixture where we take our green, or you can take our grey, lighten it up, and you're kind of doing sort of like a bleached chip that you can also do with sponge or paintbrush. Just some tidying up with a bit of silver paint just on our landing gear bits. Now we come in with a Flurry Models wash. This is basically pigments, water and washing up liquid, and you can just slap it all over the model, wipe it down, and you should just have left over the wash in all the recess panel lines, bringing all that detail to the foreground and livening up the model. You can use cotton wool buds to get into those, you know, hard to reach places. You can do it on the landing gear. Just remember to kind of streak it in a direction of flow. Even a paintbrush can get into those really hard to reach places. I do like to come along on the landing gear and actually paint on all the flat surfaces, just some plain simple white. So as it just makes it look a lot cleaner. The wash just stays into the corners and you kind of just basically paint over the wash. Now this is a cool product here by Mr. Hobby, their weathering liner. It just frees up the need to use things like thinners and anything water based. You can just wipe it up after you've drawed it down with just a dry cotton wool bud just to feather it in. Really good, easy, quick, not so messy effect. Even the Tamiya weathering master sets, you know, they are just so nice to feather on a bit of a bigger sort of broader streak, not a sharp one. Really good for things like exhaust areas as well. Going to be doing some serious bleaching here on top of the model with some oils. I was kind of like experimenting to be honest, and it's all about kind of stubbing down big sort of blobs of oil. Now the brush is key. The brush needs to be dry, right? So it's not like a wet kind of thing we're doing here. Just a dry brush, brushing it on just to feather in just that oil, right? And you can do that with all these different colours to do the different camo patterns. Admittedly, the white one that you're seeing now was a little bit too dry. Maybe I put a little bit too much on there, so it took a bit of time to brush it back, but you kind of just keep brushing at it and you'll get it the way you want it in the end. And to really make things dirty on, say, a fuel tank here, bit of brown, stub that in. Right, kind of try not to brush a lot of it away on the fuel tank to really grub them ones up. We can even take panels as well and really sort of focus on that area. Okay, I did use a bit of thinners on this one just to thin it down, and then I was let it dry and stubbed it down again with a dry brush. Bit of a cleaning around the edges, and you've got yourself one panel there just really sort of bleached out. Then we get the final matte coat, and I do love to put a matte coat on. It just kind of finalizes and brings everything together, and you can start gluing all your little bits on and everything. Do love this stage. Micro crystal clear, lovely just to kind of put a bit on the end of a cocktail stick, stick it in a hole and slowly pull it out, and that'll dry to a crystal clear glass finish. And so that is it. I mean, please go check out the Genesis Models website, because we do have the full step-by-step of this build in 24 episodes long as well, to go into way more detail than this video does. So other than that, please enjoy the final reveals.